Jessica. Where's Jessica Peoples from? Jessica, where are you? Look, before I answer that, where are you? Where are your people from? That's a method right there.
Davy, she said.
Where is that? Is
South
that Florida?
Florida. She's from here.
So, okay. We got some serious eaters in the building today. All right, I see what y'all doing. I love it. All right. So, butter. Oh, here's the thing about butter. There's one of my heroes. She rose. Her name is, sorry, y'all. I don't want this AirPod to fall out my ear into the chicken. That would not make good for a good dish. Um, there's a woman, her name was Edna Lewis, and she was from a place called Freetown, Virginia. Look her up, please. Edna Lewis, Freetown, Virginia. Daughter or granddaughter of freed slaves, right? They freed themselves, bought their freedom, and then purchased a town in Virginia and named it Freetown. She went on to become just a culinary icon, a great chef. Now she is a culinary icon. I mean, icon. Uh, and her recipe, I think I took the book to work. Her recipe says, here's what she does. She took lard or vegetable oil. She seasoned the oil with a slice of ham, right? And then she would put butter in the pan, a stick of butter. Listen, you have to be careful with that, right? So the ratio can't be too high. There's a couple of things. Their butter was different than our butter, right? So just the properties and the way it acted, right? Her butter was probably churned fresh from they got dairy locally or they had their own cows. So it was just different. The grass was different, but you're talking about some good eating if you're talking about putting butter in there. So I think that's a great technique. You just got to be mindful of the method. All right. So, all right. Thank you, Wilson. We'll see you soon. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make a little seasoning mix. All right. We'll put some salt in here, just a little onion powder. Right. I'm cooking just like we at home right now. Normally I have my setup with my bowls. I said, you know what? This is my kitchen. We talking about soul food. When you went into your grandma's kitchen, she didn't have a bunch of bowls like they do on the Food Network, right? She put a little bit of this. You ask your grandmother, how much did you put in there? I don't know, enough. You know what the answer she told you? I don't know, enough,
Or
right?
a pinch. A
A
pinch of
pinch,
this or some of that.
right? But not too much, right? But not too much is what she would say. And you still sitting there like, I'm confused. Is that a teaspoon, Grandma? And then you taste it and you understand, which is really important in our culture. The stories and the experience of food, like the chicken is important, but it's always about how it came to, and the little pinch of this and the little pinch of that, and why Grandma would maybe cut the breast in half, right? Sometimes we think that, oh, it's about a cooking method. Many times the pan was so small. So you ask these questions and she was genius. She did this and she did that. You ask Grandma later, well, why did you do that? Oh, that just didn't fit in the pan. And, or we had to feed more people. So I think what's important to understand about Black food and culture is that it's the stories that come along with it. Again, we have the what, right? And we have the taste, but the why really can lead us to its brilliance and to its genius. Okay, so I have a little seasoning mix here. Okay, now I'm missing. You can put whatever you want in this. I'm missing paprika. Okay, so I'm missing a little paprika. All right. Now, you could put whatever you like in your seasoning mix. I don't know about you all, but I grew up. So I lived in the city. My grandmother was in the country, but I grew up with seasoning salt. Right. So we weren't a Lowry's family. A lot of people grew up on Lowry's. I grew up with McCormick, with the blue and white. Mm-hmm. So many people, my mother, for instance, would use that In the 70s and 80s, we would use that. But you can make your own Lowry's or your own seasoning mix. If you use it, that's totally fine. If you don't, fine as well. Um, I think one of the cool things about seasoning blends is that they offer us a one-stop shop. We used to put it on hot dogs; they didn't need it. Scrambled eggs, rice, didn't matter. Seasoning salt, season all is what it was called.
Mm-hmm.
Convenience. Convenience is the way we started to move in the 70s, right? With these sort of food products. The downside, or maybe the not so benefits, some of these products have added ingredients and additives that are not food, or maybe even gluten that's not even listed. So you just have to be mindful of that. Again, do what works for you. Um, but you can also just make your own, figure out little blends as recipes online. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add some of this seasoning mix to this water, right? And then we're gonna add the rest of the seasoning mix to flour. Okay. I'm gonna add a little baking powder. How much? Just a pinch. All right. I got a couple of cups of fried chicken in there. Okay. And we're going to mix that up. Now, what I essentially did with this is I'm making what I call like a brine, right? So that's just a seasoning mix and water. Brines can vary. You can look them up online. What I believe is that brines were introduced to help us preserve food, right? When I look back, we didn't have refrigerators, right? We didn't have freezers. So again, you talk about preservation of food with a different mindset. Without in the hot summer months, it's not cold outside. You have to figure out a way to preserve food because you don't know when it's going to come around again. So you salt it, right? You can salt it, you can smoke it, and these things travel and they can keep for a little while. So brines are a beautiful thing. So what we're going to do is soak this in there. All right, I'll do a leg. Somebody said leg. Are y'all white meat, dark meat? Tell me in the chat. You
One
team?
person said legs. I saw legs. No one else talked about pieces.
Okay. Dark, Stephanie. I think it was Wilson. He had the roll, but
Mm-hmm.
dark. Okay. Dark meat is gonna have all the flavor. If you ask, if you ask me, white meat from Jessica. Dark. Okay. Dark is winning. Listen, I'm a big fan of all of it. Um, Problem with the breast is that it generally, if you look at this breast, it's small, right? So it's not the breast that you get drumsticks, drumsticks. Okay, all right, we got some serious eaters in here. I love it. I love it. I see Chris, Jeremiah, Cameron. Okay, Stephanie, you cannot ruin dark meat. I don't know. I've had some dark meat. It's pretty bad, but I know what you mean by that. Okay, Aisha. Uh, ah, Trevor says
Oh,
grandma
wow.
always asks for the neck and the butt, which is which is interesting because I taught a class on this last week. So this is the back, and this is the end, as Trevor was alluding to. This is the neck up here. Now remember, I know in my grandmother's house, nothing, when I say nothing, nothing went to waste. So before sustainability was a word, a coined term, we lived, she lived sustainably. And again, the why, right? So I love to look into the why. I remember I'm a city, I grew up in a city in Alexandria, and I lived down in the country, and I would go down there for summers. And I recall, we're in the city, we're in, right deep in the city, and there wasn't no hanging clothes. The dryer, I getting ready for school, wash a shirt at night and forget to dry. You get up in the morning, you put it in the dryer. Not at grandma's house. Like in the summer, the dryer was like a storage unit. She had stuff in there. It never came on unless it was raining outside. But she hung all of the clothes outside. So the point is, nothing went to waste. Even if she had the opportunity, she was sustainable. So same with the neck and the back. You can use this for stock, right? I like to store it in the freezer, and when I have enough, use it for stock. But as Trevor said, I see a lot of people that just eat this, right? It's a lot of flavor. It's meat on here. If you look at that, it's meaty, right? It's meaty. It's good stuff. It's close to the bone. Remember, the bone has a lot of flavor. So I hear that indeed. So what we do in a plastic baggie or just in its container. You can soak this up to overnight, right? You just let it sit, seasoning and water. And the water is just, it's obviously not going to add any flavor, but brines, there's a process called osmosis. Brines, the water is just a vehicle for the seasoning to do what it does. Okay. So just save me the gizzards. Okay. Y'all, this is listen. I was teaching some people from up north, and no disrespect to my folks up north, but I could tell that y'all know how to eat. I haven't seen the word gizzard in a minute.
Down south.
That's
Down
right. That's
south.
right. That's right. And Jessica just brought up my favorite method. I accidentally used my paper bag, but I wanted to bring it on. You can't fry chicken. I never saw fried chicken tossed in a bowl. I never saw it. Like probably until I got to culinary school. It was the brown paper bag, right? It could be the little lunch one or the big grocery one. But that is genius level frying chicken right there. So we got the bowl today. All right, I'm gonna test y'all. I don't have a thermometer. How do I know if my oil is hot enough? See if y'all really some eaters. Tiffany, you don't answer. I saw you. Piece of bread. What you mean, Trevor? What you mean, piece of bread? Y'all teaching me. That's what I'm talking about. Let me go sit down. Give me a chair. The flour. What should it do? Fatu, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Put it in a chopstick. Put some flour in the oil. Sizzle. I've seen the chopstick method before. All right. Let's see. Let me pull this on. Y'all gonna teach. Look, y'all gonna teach the class. We're gonna change the roles. Tell me what to do. All right. Be careful when moving oil. This is a portable stove. Obviously, I can move it, but uh, move it too fast. And okay. So, can y'all see that? Is that ready? What you think, Fatu?
It's ready.
That's ready. All right. So here's the thing. So again, the what my grandmother did, what your grandmother did, what all of our ancestors did without tools and technology is nothing short of just magical. And I'm talking about, we're talking about that's modern stuff, right? Take it back to 200 years ago, right? Where you're talking about wood burning, right? Hearth, not even a stove, literally an open fire with an open cauldron of fat, right? One pot, okay? Um, if you were allowed to cook, which is another important thing that makes me honor our cuisine and culture. During slave times, you know, we have this sort of weird view of what slavery was. It was extremely uh, just brutal is probably too soft a word. But one of the components was that slaves weren't allowed to keep spices and seasonings. Um, remember, anything that was sort of extra or maybe deemed a luxury was not really important, right? It was all about labor. It was not about making people comfortable or anything like that. So spices and seasonings had to be, um, you know, hidden, right? And when they were able to cook for themselves with little food or leftovers, they would spice and season their food with spices they many times they weren't allowed to have. So when you just think about that, when I think about that, it just makes me. I'm like, how could we as a people move away from this dish when it's just it's phenomenal what was done. There's a great book. I'm going to fly with this chicken leg here. It's a great book called Building Houses Out of Chicken Legs by Psyche Williams Forson. She is a professor out of the University of Maryland, building houses out of chicken legs. And in this book, she talks about the water carriers. Well, one of the things she talks about is the water carriers of Gordonsville, Virginia. Another Virginia reference, right? Shout out to VA. That's where I am. But pretty amazing stuff came out of Virginia. Um, and let me pause that story for a second. Little tip, okay? If you see that, right? So it's dusted. We're gonna hit that off. But we need those crunchies, those little cracklies that you get, those pockets of flour. We need that. So here's how you get that. You take a little bit. I don't have a glove on, but on the other hand, so I'm not touching it. So you want to keep one hand wet, one hand dry. But you take a little bit of the whatever your batter is, if you're using whatever your wet is, and just sprinkle it in there. If you're using buttermilk, doesn't really matter. Same thing. And you just get some wet in there, not a whole bunch. Some people go back and forth. That's cool. But you want to press that down in there, right? You just want to, you almost want to, you want to squeeze it, okay? What we're doing is we're creating those little, see those little bunches right there of flour? That's going to cook up very, very nicely. Remember, when you put this in the oil, the flour is going to spread away. Okay, so you want to make sure you have a good coating on there. You can leave it out for a few minutes, leave it in the flour, up to you. Okay, now Psyche Force and Wilson building houses out of chicken legs. Gordonsville, Virginia, during the Civil War era, I believe. Train was the method of travel, right? You're going north to south, south to north. Back in the day, there were no dining cars, right? There were no dining carts. So if you wanted something to eat, you had to bring along with you or just wait till you got to your destination. The women of Gordonsville, Virginia, the train would stop in Gordonsville or near it. And they, having cooked fried chicken primarily, pies, different coffees, would travel by foot, take this stuff that they had cooked at home to this train stop and sell it to the passengers, right? And these were not, these were, to travel by train at that time. We were pretty well-to-do folks, okay? But it became so famous for its food, that route. Many people, when traveling, would book that route when they knew the food was going to become available. And then those women, that community, used the money from that to further enrich their communities. I mean, how amazing is that, right? That they built up, they were entrepreneurs and they were in this community and had this collective effort and just energy. How beautiful was that? So again, I don't understand how we could run away from something with such rich history. I do understand it, but I hope we go back to it. Let me say that. All right, so we're pressing this in here. And someone said something about cast iron. I saw. There we go. Cast iron. That's Chris. All right, so we're going to lay this in here. Now, that is going really hard, harder than I want. So we're just going to turn it down. No need to panic. When you add more chicken, the flour is going to drop. I'm sorry, the temperature is going to drop even more. I'm going to add some more chicken. That's a little too hot, which is totally fine. I turned it all the way off. No need to freak out. No need to panic. The temperature is dropping right now, right? Most people try to rush, take it off the fire. Don't do that. If it gets too brown too quickly, what can we do? We can take it out, finish it in the oven. Not my preferred method, but it still works. We don't want to burn fried chicken, okay? So I'm gonna put one more piece in there because this needs to cook for about 18, 20 minutes. All right, boom. Another piece, and see, there we go. The oil sizzle down a little bit. It's settled. Just adjust the camera just a touch. Boom, so you can see that. All right. So I have my tongs here. Okay.
Vivian is funny. She said, "Where's the curbside pickup for the delicious fried chicken?"
Come on, Vivian. It's in Arlington, Virginia right now. So
Ooh, that's a long trek, Vivian. I don't know.
That's a long. We're gonna do it like the Gordonsville women. You plan your trip around this fried chicken up here. One of the biggest mistakes you can make with frying chicken, really cooking anything, is to mess with it. Right? Leave it alone. Right? When it's unless it's burning and you can actually see it's burning, Leave it alone for about 3 minutes. If you mess with it and move it around, all that flour is going to fall off. Um, Cast iron. Chris said cast iron is the best for fried chicken. Absolutely, absolutely, cast iron is the best, and I'll tell you why. One, I have this deep pot right here. You can use this or a Dutch oven. Cast iron is also great, is because all pans. See if I can get one here. All right, it's a perfect example. This is the other end of the spectrum. This is this little, everybody got that one. Don't judge me, y'all. Don't judge me. Everybody got that one pot that's
That
been with them for
pot
about
looks
15,
like
20 years.
it has been passed from grandma to grandma to grandma to
Look,
mama
look,
to Rock Harper.
yes. It's been with us for a minute. And it's like aluminum. So it's weak, right? It is weak. And then it wasn't black up until a couple of weeks ago. My mom was chilling. Uh, she was cooking some sweet potatoes in this pot, and she was chilling. She took a little nap on the couch, and my son came around the corner. It's like, is this supposed to be smoking? So I didn't want to. It has so much history. I didn't want to. I didn't want to throw it away. So I've been scrubbing it. But don't judge me, please. Um, so cast iron. So if you look at it, weak, right? Thin aluminum, cheap pan, good pan for certain things. But what happens is when you put anything in here, it's going to heat up. This is a great conductor of heat, as is cast iron, as is carbon, right? There's different metals for different things. However, holding the heat, holding the energy within the walls of the pan, very, very important. When I put this chicken in there, it's going to drop so drastically and take so long to recover. You'll have low oil and essentially greasy fried chicken, right? We don't want greasy. Greasy is not good. We want delicious, right? We don't want the chicken to retain too much grease. And one of the ways you can get greasy fried chicken is your oil temperature is too low, when you don't see enough bubbles, okay? So cast iron, the reason why it's so wonderful is because it's such a thick pan, and it's all for all my science folks in the Zoom. It's all science, but it retains so much of that heat energy within the walls. So when it cools down, it's fighting back, right? It can really recover very well. It's not going to cool down to cold, all right? But cast iron is absolutely best. And then I'm just a believer in, I'm a spiritual person, so I believe in energy and just flavor, right? So I got, I got a cast iron in my mother's house and my grandmother used to use. You got decades, probably a century at this point, of just flavor and love and all of that beautiful energy that's been surrounded around it. So just cast iron is gonna last you forever. Um, Let me take a look at this first breast.
So
All
while you're
right.
flipping, Jessica asked, what do you think about the trend towards copper parts? Are they really better?
Copper is an excellent conductor of heat. It depends on what type of copper, right? There's a lot of copper looking pans, and they're not real copper. But if you're talking about real copper, and not the copper plated or the stuff that you see on like, I got one down here, so I'm not judging. Stuff that you see on like the infomercials, that stuff is cool. It's not real copper. If you're talking about real copper, copper is excellent. It's high maintenance stuff, right? Copper is one of the best conductors of heat, right? So heat travels through and heats the food and stays hot. It just a true copper pot, which you see in a lot of old school French kitchens or even new school. You're gonna have to wash um, and polish almost quite frequently because they're hard upkeep, not super difficult, but I think copper is great. There are some pans that might be like stainless steel, and then they have I think I have one down here, but I keep saying that I don't want to go down there, but they have a copper lining in between, a copper core, what they're called. So you have the benefits of stainless steel, and then you have this copper plate in between the pan, so you have the properties of heating. So I think copper is great. Cast iron keeps the seasoning, absolutely. Um, so I love it. Y'all are active in the chat. That's what I'm talking about. I love it. Seahawks in the building. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about while that's frying. First of all, it smells good. So y'all know what I'm doing as soon as this is over with. next time, next time I'm gonna have to send a little a canister of the aroma, and we all open it up together. Doesn't do you any good for eating, but we'll figure it out.
Trevor
So
is looking for mac and cheese and collard greens. Next time, Trevor, next time.
next time, Trevor. Good good question too, or entry point when we're talking about mac and cheese and collard greens and soul food, right? So collard greens, you know, slaves were allowed to grow certain um, vegetables, right? And oftentimes, you know, they were not the best vegetables until later on we realized they were super nutritious. So collard greens is one of the vegetables that actually has roots in our culture, in our food ways. But mac and cheese is became a part of soul food, became a part of Black culture, but it's not necessarily inherently like a Black dish, right? So depending upon who you talk to, uh, maybe like how did mac and cheese become a part of the soul food plate? It depends on who you talk to, who you believe. But if you look back to Monticello, where Thomas Jefferson had this amazing chef, his name was James Hemings. Um, he took his chefs to Europe with him. Thomas Jefferson took his chefs with him, and I use the term chef loosely. He was a slave that also cooked, but he was a chef. Uh, they went on trips, or when Thomas Jefferson came back, he brought ingredients with him for them to cook and to discover. So, I'm not a scholar, but pasta obviously is not African, does not have African roots, and cheese does not have African roots. So when I look at that dish, this is me. I'm not Adrian Miller or Dr. Jesse B. Harris. They're scholars. But when I look at that dish, I see influences from Europe coming here together, and really like some sort of Midwestern influence too when we think about casseroles and things of that nature. But collard greens definitely has African American roots in it. So just interesting stuff. So Trevor, next time, brother, we got you. So I'm gonna flip these over, and I'm gonna talk about this shoebox. Woo, woo. Now I added a little baking powder to that, and that's gonna help with the sort of the crispness of whew. It happens. Right? That's gonna help with the crispness of the breading. You can, we used to use cornflakes. I've seen even cornmeal, right? The fine cornmeal I've seen, not too much. It's more for fish, but I've seen it in chicken product, in chicken breading. Cornflakes, um, potato flakes I've seen. So, the instant mashed potatoes. So all sorts of stuff that can add to the all-purpose flour, but all-purpose is usually the one. All right, so what is this here? Some Adidas I bought. It's a shoebox, right? Baking powder. I'm gonna go back. So baking powder is it gives a sort of light, airy crispness to the flour. Doesn't take a lot. You don't want to overdo it because it is a chemical essentially. But it adds when it fries, it adds a certain light. The way it reacts, I forget the science of it, but it helps with the light and crispness of the batter, of the breading, because you don't want a heavy, dense breading, right? Like I was talking about with buttermilk. Mm. So baking powder is going to it's going to add a light airiness. You can also use rice flour, right? That's what I use at the restaurant. Not a lot, but if you think about tempura, right? We've all had tempura. Tempura is almost see-through. It's translucent. Well, it's fried and it's crispy, very crispy. If you've had shrimp tempura, vegetable tempura. So when we add some of the rice flour to the all-purpose, we're adding that ability or that component, that light and airy component. Okay, so you can experiment with different flours. All-purpose, I always suggest that being your base, but you can always add these other flours around. Watercress flour. There's these gluten free. There's tapioca I've used. There's so many different flours, and not just with chicken that you can add to fried product. So, Chris, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to change your life. I tell you, no problem. Just when you come up here, just holler at me. When you ever make it up to Virginia, just come and give me a fist bump. Or if it's later and we can shake hands, we can shake hands. All right, so box. Let's move forward. Let's move forward down the timeline to, let's just say the 30s, 19. We're in the 1900s, 1930s, 40s, 50s, 60s even. Pretty tough on Black folks, right? So one of the ways it was pretty tough was travel, right? There's this whole thing called traveling while Black. You had actually something, this postal worker, gentleman by the name of Victor Green, created this thing called the Green Book, the Negro Motorist Green Book, right? And there was a movie with Mahershala and Victor. I forget the other actor's name, but the movie surrounded around controversial movie. But the point was he created the Green Book, and the Green Book was basically telling Black people, here's where you can eat, here's where you can stay. If it was not listed there, the general idea was that you can't eat there, you can't stop there. You probably want to get out of this town. A lot of these towns were called sundown towns, right? Don't be here now, definitely. But when the sun come down, go down, and there were signs too. N-word, leave here, right? Like entering town, you're not welcome. So imagining traveling with your family, as my mother did with her father and mother, and long trip. You need to maybe take a nap, get something to eat. You got to pre-plan for that, because stopping in the wrong place or going to the wrong town or making the wrong move, even if you get pulled over by the police officer, could mean danger for your family. I mean, like, not like a ticket, real and present danger and humiliation. So one of the things that came out of that was, and usually it was the woman that planned all of this, was planning the trip, were these shoebox or sack lunches, right? They could be in a bag or in a box, or maybe a pail or something, but you'd have fried chicken in them. Fried chicken became this meal, this dish that traveled really well and just became a thing. I know I grew up, and I even know, I think I was telling you, Tiffany, but I used to, I used to go to, we got this amusement park here called Kings Dominion. And just because I was broke and young 20 something, we used to fry chicken and just leave it in the trunk. So we would come out and eat lunch at halftime because we couldn't spend $10 on a funnel cake or, $8 on a burger. And I didn't really understand the significance of that I had passed along without even understanding where it came from. So what was generally in the fried chicken sort of, we call these the shoebox lunches, the fried chicken, some white bread, and a slice of pound cake. And you may have a piece of fruit in there. Maybe up front was a thermos for water or something like that. And we have to remember, there was no, it wasn't a time where we have all these water bottles and things of that nature. And also, what happens when you drink? You got to use the bathroom.
Right.
One, my mother told me, Delmas Harris was my grandfather. He wasn't stopping, right? He wanted to be on time. So you better use the bathroom before you leave. Two, you could not use the bathroom just at any old place. One, it was just, businesses didn't exist the way they do now, but you could not use the bathroom. It could mean life and death. This was a decision. So no liquids on the trip. But a little pound cake, fried chicken, fruit. And I haven't seen Lovecraft Country. Well, I've been meaning to check that out. I'll check that out. But it would sit in the back. And here's a funny little thing too. My mother told me, because I talked to her before I did this presentation, and she said, whether you were going to, they were in Southern Virginia, so you could be going to Alexandria, 2 hours away, or you could be going down to Florida, 12, 14 hours away. You had two pieces of chicken, two pieces of bread, one slice of pound cake, or maybe one piece of chicken. But the meal didn't change based upon how long. So you better ration out. You 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 can eat that sucker before you leave the driveway. But ain't no more food coming to you, and you better not look to your brother or your sister because they ain't sharing. Uh, so that I thought that was really cool. Just think about the planning. Um, and also, my grandmother, I remember this as a child. She would leave us, like if we had a long road trip, she would give us a box or something for the road, just so we didn't have to stop. So again, by the time I was a child, we're talking 80s now, we could stop anywhere. All right, we can stop anywhere we wanted. But those traditions were carried over. This is why the what is super important. But to me, the how, like the why, how did this come to, is where the magic is. All right. So anybody know what the internal temperature of chicken should be? Yes, I
Stephanie
think it is
wrote
very interesting.
160.
Stephanie, okay. Anybody else? I'm not going to tell you whether that's right or wrong. What should the internal temperature of chicken be? When I stick a thermometer in this, y'all
Anybody else
rocking
want
with
to
Stephanie?
guess?
165 said Jeremiah. Jeremiah, Google. Did you Google Jeremiah?
Yeah, Jeremiah did because I was like, unless he took serve safe, he wouldn't know the answer to that question.
All right, that's cool. Intuition. All right,
That
Jeremiah, we're gonna give you that
technology.
one.
Technology.
uh, so Stephanie, good. You were close, but it's 165. So 165 um, degrees, 165 degrees internal temperature, right? And what that is, again, I keep everything for me goes back to the genius of those that came before us, right? Um, and some people cook it higher, right? Some people cook it higher to 180. If you look, so 165, salmonella cannot live at 165. It dies at 165. So if you just cook it all, you assume what I assume is that people think that salmonella is like ugly and like you can see it. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. It could be perfectly fresh chicken, it can have salmonella on it. There's a certain percentage of all chicken has salmonella, and that's because of the conditions at the farm. It's not a bad thing, it just is what it is. Um, you just make the assumption if you're in food service that all chicken has salmonella and you treat it as such, right? You don't play the numbers game. Here's the cool thing about uh, my grandmother, our ancestors, like they weren't eating raw chicken, right? So they had to, when the chicken floated or it was a certain time, certain intuition, like Jeremiah and his intuition on the 165, they knew when it was done. Or maybe they just broke open a little piece and saw if there was blood running out and put it back in the fire. I'm not sure. But I know that they didn't have the technology that we have now. But you want to make sure your chicken is well done. Okay. Um,
What's your
now,
thoughts about water, washing the chicken or not?
oh, that's such a great question. So, water. So, like I was saying with the cooking, what I started to say was, I was in I was a culinary instructor, and as a culinary instructor, I'm pretty sure you know this, Miss Irving, but as an instructor, you get so much information from students, and then certain things seem weird. I'll be honest with you, but then to me, I always go to the why and the how. So we had one student that she we were cooking soul food. I think it was one day. I was teaching class on soul food, and I want to say I walked over to the sink and she had collards and she had like dish detergent on the collard greens, and she was an older black woman. That's what are you doing? Like we don't what is going on here? And one thing led to another. She said this is how she always did it, and it was actually this green. I want to say it's poke. I want to say it's called poke, not like poke, but I forget. I got to go back and research it. But there was this green that was poisonous if not washed properly, but it was so nutritious. that her when she went back and asked her grandmother or her mother, I believe, and that was what we came to. So it was in their so it was in their tradition to wash the greens as thoroughly as you could, and that just got passed down to any green in general. Now we don't need to wash greens with dish soap, right? We just need to wash them with water. Same thing with meat. I had the same students would tell me, Chef, you're not going to wash that. People would wash it with vinegar, wash it with lemon juice, lime juice. um, so for me, we wash with water. We rinse our chicken. It comes from local farms, so it has a little bit less of the gas and the not less. It has no gas and some of that slime that you get on some of the chicken in the grocery stores. But so I wash with water, uh, and if people want to wash, here's the thing about washing. Last thing I'll say on this: you have to be careful, right? Especially at home. The more you wash, the more liquid splashes all over. So a lot of times, like right here, you see in my sink, you're washing the chicken, and then all it takes is it doesn't take a tablespoon of juice to get somebody sick, right? You washing or your hands are not clean, you go touch something else, a seasoning container, and then you touch that container later and it gets into your system. This is how the transmission of foodborne illness can travel, right? The general consensus is you don't really need to wash the chicken. It's ready to go. And anything you're taking off is not going to change the way it cooks. Now, in different cultures, that's a big no-no, and I get it. So if you need it, my mother, if you don't wash that bird, it's a problem, right? So that was my long way around washing. Okay, so here's what we got here. Um, we have old oil. I want to talk about really quick. Save that oil. Get a little strainer. Save that oil. It's going to be the best. Brand new oil, it's okay, but you need a little flavor in there. So save that oil, strain it, put it to the side, get it in a container. But that is perfectly good oil right there. And the more you strain it, the quicker you strain it, right? This is still hot. It's still cooking the flour that's in the bottom. So it's deteriorating. So make sure you strain that oil. Okay. Stephanie says she likes her chicken slightly undercooked.
She's being funny.
Oh, okay. Well, I tell you. All
we're
right,
not
baby.
we're
Okay.
not
I mean,
encouraging salmonella or ptomaine poisoning. We're not encouraging food poisoning, none of that.
I, I used to work with some phenomenal chefs, and they would no medium rare chicken. Nah, no medium rare. And they would actually, he was from this is my sous chef, and he was from Malaysia, and he would cook this great chicken. And my kitchen was a mix of like people from South America, it was black cooks in there, and I had a bunch of it was a family almost. It was 7 people from Malaysia, so you would cook family meal, and the chicken would be like when you get to the bone, it still be pink. And I'm like, Sam, like, what's going on, man? Like, you can't serve this. And he's like, listen, that's how we eat it. I'm like, really? I never heard of this before. I said, we got a bunch of black people in here. I need you to cook this chicken. And his thing was, he said, you can cook it, but this is how we cook it. If you want to eat it, so we ate it too. It was that good. He basted it. It was like a Peking chicken almost. He basted it in the oven. It was crazy. Um, so I just said my grace over. We pray over stuff, right? We I just said, God, please, it tastes so good. Please don't let it hurt me. Uh, so here's the fried chicken, and I have a little hot sauce here, right? Um, this is a locally made hot sauce made with a fish pepper. But the fish peppers has a very interesting history that I'm studying now, about to study now, and some fried chicken. And I'm going to show you something really quick. So I have some wheat bread here, which was not. Um, my mother didn't grow up on wheat bread, right? This was something that it was white bread the way we grew up, or the way she grew up. But wheat bread was introduced as a healthy alternative later on. So you would get one piece, maybe two, right, and some chicken. This is the original chicken sandwich, right? This was I don't care what that restaurant says with the polka dots. This was the original chicken sandwich. Actually, they say they didn't invent it; they perfected it. Um, but how you eat this again? When you think about the genius, right? One of the mothers had to fill bellies. They had to make sure that their families were protected, but they had to fill bellies. So we eat a bunch of protein now, but it wasn't the same back in the day. So you would take some chicken, and if they had some hot sauce there, and my mouth is watering so bad, and I'm not even gonna eat this on camera in front of y'all because you've been such a great audience. But you take some chicken and you take some bread, and that's good, but it's also filling. Okay, so again, for me, it's all about the how, the how these things came to existence. So, and then I have a little pound cake I made earlier. We didn't have time to make that, and you just cut off a little slice. Very simple. A little slice of pound cake, and and that would be your meal. That would be your meal until you got to your destination. Um, so that is fried chicken. I see a question, Trevor. It's not actually off top. Well, a little bit, but it's about grease. You use leftover bacon grease for your eggs. So we used to. Um, that's next level cooking right there. That's one of those small hacks. So I don't. I don't cook a lot of bacon in my home now, but I believe in that method and saving grease. So yeah, cook it up, cook it up. You said I taught you how to cook, feed yourself for a lifetime, huh, Jeremiah? Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Let me just make sure I can still. I'm not. Maybe make sure I can still fried chicken. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's righteous. Sorry, I'm chewing on camera. As you can see, I want to show you something. When you're pan frying, you can't see off camera, but I have a deep fryer over here. Um, so you can deep fry in this, but the heat is really intense from the bottom. In a deep fryer, it has a heating element and it surrounds it so it's more even. It's not really high heat from the bottom. So in pan frying, especially on the larger pieces, you're gonna get some brown right there because it's you got the heat right up under it, right? It's like right up under it. And it's touching the bottom of the pan. In a deep fryer, there's a basket. Okay, so you just want to be mindful of that. And you see on the thigh, this one was the first piece in, but you just want to be mindful when you turn that over. Okay, see, we have a little bit right there. Who? Yes, yes. When we frying chicken, I love it. I love it. And we got a bunch of. I cooked the dog meat in here because I know everybody was saying, "Yay to the legs and thighs."
I'm a wing girl myself.
You are
I am.
breaded or unbreaded, like fried chicken
Oh
style
no,
or
I need
unbreaded.
my chicken breaded.
Yes.
I'll bake. I'll bake. Bake is the only way. My chicken is unbreaded, but no, I need my chicken bread.
Yeah. Yes, the wings are a delicacy almost. Which makes me think about another interesting story in Black culture and fried chicken, right? So they had something called, many of you probably know this, but the gospel bird or the Sunday cluck, right? So for those of you who don't know, um, again, fried chicken. It's why history and like learning is so important. Fried chicken wasn't like an everyday thing. It was really a celebratory dish, right? KFC changed a lot of that because fast food restaurants were not a thing, and then widely so fast food actually changed a lot of that. But just at home, it's a big deal to this is messy sometimes, right? You're not frying chicken all the time, but on Sundays, especially with the that was a celebratory day for us. Going back again to slavery, Sundays and on many plantations was the one time that um, th- they you could be a human being and allowed to celebrate amongst your folks, right? So that carried over. Again, I'm not being super specific, but Sunday has always been after church. Sunday supper sort of deal, celebratory, celebrating us. Now, many times in neighborhoods and towns, the pastor would come by, right? Come by for dinner. And it was very important that the pastor got the biggest, nicest piece of chicken. He got to choose first from the from the plate. When pastor was coming over, when churches were cornerstones of many of our towns,
Mhm.
that's where the gospel bird um, originated. So it was very important that nobody touched the chicken before pastor sat down. Now I don't know, pastor. Pastor. Now he's still, pastor's still gonna he's still gonna get the big piece of chicken, but we might have to put it to the side. We got to make sure my kids gonna go hard as soon as they see food hit the table. Any legitimacy in the story behind Nashville hot chicken? What do you mean legitimacy? It's legitimate. Oh, you mean Princess? And how the recipe came to be. So the way I understand it is that there was a man named Prince. If this is what you're talking about, um, where Prince. So there's a couple of chicken houses in Nashville, just to for the record, that may or may not have, not may or may not. One of them claimed the fame to invent the recipe. So I don't want to get into trouble. I believe in telling the truth. I don't want to get into trouble by saying this is definite, but I know the Prince's story is that Prince was a little. His last name is Prince. Prince was a little. He was kind of a player, right? And he was a ladies' man apparently. And he came in one night or one morning, and his lady was hot because old Prince came in smelling like the club and probably some bourbon. So she made him some chicken, and to punish him, she was gonna make this chicken so spicy and so hot, just that, and watch him eat it because he knew he was in hot water, and the chicken was so spicy. He was sweating. He was nervous probably because he didn't want, he got hot pot of grease thrown on him because he'd been out all night. But she punished him with chicken. And Prince is sitting there. Apparently, he gets this light bulb that goes off and said, "This is hot, but man, this is good." And Nashville, or his Prince's hot chicken was created. Again, there's another restaurant you should definitely look up called Bolton's. And the Bolton's um, family goes way back on hot chicken. I think they may have claimed to invent it as well, but they do fish as well. But yeah, don't nobody do that, right? Don't stay out till 6 a.m. when you got your lady waiting on you. Yeah, so I heard it was. I heard it's legitimate. I heard it's super legitimate. You got Nashville hot chicken. You have Korean fried chicken. A cool fact about Korean fried chicken: I took my Korean fried chicken off the menu because as a chef, I didn't know enough about it. You don't have to be super deep with everything. Everything ain't that deep. But when I put a nation on something, like I feel it's important to be able to at least tell the story, right? Properly and to give homage and respect or just whatever, just to know what I'm cooking. So I had Korean fried chicken on there. I didn't know too much about it. This was recent, past couple of months. So I just took it off the menu. Um, and I've been doing some research on it. And I was like, when did Koreans start frying chicken like that? And I haven't dug deep, but apparently the soldiers, the black soldiers in Korea during the Korean War, in relationship, introduced the seasonings technique to Koreans. And of course, we were there for a while, and here we are. But Korean fried chicken, again, this is my early indications, is that it came from Soul Food, from Soul Brothers that brought it over to Korea, and then Koreans added their seasonings and techniques and ingredients to make it Korean fried chicken. To me, I just think that, of course, I give credit to Black folks in America for creating the fried chicken that we know and love today. But I think the story of how food travels and how new dishes and techniques are created is just mind blowing to me, right? We all know banchan, right? I don't know if y'all have them down there, but Korean fried chicken is a really big thing. If you just look at how it happened and now it's super, super big, I just think that's just truly fascinating. And so if you think about that, I'm preaching now. I'm preaching now, Tiffany. I'm sorry. If you just think about that, right? We have something called Korean fried chicken that every chain restaurant, even I saw Shake Shack is doing some Korean something or other. Again, there's Korean parts of it, right? I don't want to gloss that over. There's gochujang, which is a fermented pepper paste.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you see peanuts in it. You see gochugaru, which is also the dried spice. You see rice wine vinegar and all sorts of ingredients. But if you look at the fried chicken, that has roots in Black America that came over as a result of the war and being in community, these communities mashing up. I think that how can you not embrace that as a Black chef? This is me. How can we as people not see the brilliance and how marvelous that is? How can you not? Um, and there's the other stuff that comes along with it, how it became negative. But when you just look at it, it's pretty remarkable. Oh, thank you so much. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer questions. You know, I can probably talk for another hour, but want to
So
make sure.
great participation, everyone. Someone asked, are you planning to write a book behind the
I
food?
am. I am. Yes. And before we go, I do want to reiterate that or underscore that. Thank you all. This has like been the livest chat I've ever done. So you all are in there. I appreciate it. Yeah, I hope to write a book. I need to do some research and homework, but I hope to write a deep book on fried chicken.
Any other questions?
Does that say biggest pet peeves of
Oh,
how people?
biggest pet peeve of how, that's a good question.
Um, I think I'm not a purist or food snob to where I think there are any uh, hard and fast rules. I think my biggest pet peeve is you know going to like a French school, right? I went to Johnson and Wales University, and it's rooted in French technique, right? Classical training is what they call it. We were taught technique and skill and respect for uh, many different foods, right? And many different cultures and technique. I use the word twice there, but we were taught to bring a certain level of respect. So my biggest pet peeve is when we don't apply that same level of respect to, I'm going to answer, I'll say specifically to fried chicken. Black food, it, as a sort of hovering above that or off to the side. But since you asked the question, to fried chicken. So there's this mindset that you just throw something in the fryer, put a little flour on it, finish it with salt, and it's going to be great. And that's just, you wouldn't dare do that with a foie gras torchon, right? Or a wagyu steak that needs to be based like you wouldn't approach it the same way. So my biggest pet peeve is you have to treat this cooking technique the same way you would any other technique. So yeah, just respect it. Like your fat has to be clean. It has to be filtered. You have to make sure you're paying attention and look at the bubbles the same way you would sauteing, braising. So that would be my biggest pet peeve when people think, oh, anybody can fry chicken. It's just like, nah, bruh. Nah, I've been in enough restaurants where that ain't true. Amen, Trevor. Amen. It's not soul food without the soul, right? And I think we've lost that over the past maybe generation. We gotta get that back. The food is great, but the soul is what really sustained us. Excuse me. Christine said. Christine said you a little late. Catch you up. What you missed? You missed. Oh, Christine, we
You
got.
miss greatness.
Well, I appreciate that. You missed a little bit of. You missed a lot of love right there. Oh, there you go. We got you. We got you. We got you on the store. You can check it out. And any questions, you can. I guess you can hit me up on Instagram at Rock Harper. Y'all can ask me there. Follow me and share your share your chicken stories.
So one more time, how can they reach you, Chef Harper?
The best way probably is Instagram or if you have any, yeah, Instagram has all of this stuff. So, and I'm at rock underscore, I'm sorry, Rock Harper, RockHarper, and it has
All
all the
together.
links. Yes, and since you just mentioned Hell's Kitchen, 2007, two fun facts for anybody that didn't see it. Um, One, I fried chicken. I won during Black History Month. Little known fact. It showed in the summer, but I won in February. So big energy there. And then two, I fried chicken as my signature dish, along with a crab cake for the finale. Right. I think it's really important for us to always tell our stories from where we are. And I went into that knowing, dude, you cooking for Gordon Ramsay. Like, are you gonna make food that you think would he would make in his restaurants? Or are you gonna cook from your heart? And I cooked from my heart. So fried chicken it was. So she says, Christine says vegetarian, but still making fried chicken with corn roast. Do you have any tips for that? Um, I used to use corn roast and different. I've experimented with all those different vegan and vegetarian products. Um, what I think is that if this were corn, this is a piece of pound cake, you have to batter it and make sure that the flour is in there. So I would go wet, right? If you have some sort of wash or something, dry. I would go a couple of times back to wet and then dry again and let that sit. Um, and if the corn is not going to break apart, press it in there, right? So I use some vegan products that are really pliable or durable. So make sure you press it in there so it doesn't fall off. It's fully cooked, so you don't have to leave it in there long. Um, yeah, that's what I would say with that. I haven't done that in a long time, but that's what I would say. Oh, thank you, Jessica. It's very nice of you to say. I haven't done Christine. I haven't done that in cooked with vegetarian products in a while. So I couldn't give you anything up to date. But I used to use something. I forget what it was, but I haven't used it in probably over 10, 15 years. So as long as you put a little love in there, it'll all be good. Yes, Ordine. Welcome to the party. You can check out the recording. It tastes even great too. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. Thank you. Thank you. This is excellent.
All right. So final questions for Chef Harper.
Bring them in. Bring them in. Ah, I was waiting. Nobody asked to the end. It's the number one question I always get. Gordon Ramsay, personality, on versus off. I wouldn't say on camera, off camera. I mean, the man practically seems like he lives on camera all the time now. I
Mhm.
think it's in kitchen, out of kitchen, right? In kitchen, I mean, this brother is, there's nothing like perfection is an understatement, right? So he is driven, but he's also very caring. He doesn't show it. It doesn't seem like it on the show, but he's pushing. He's trying to push to get out of you what you don't even know is within you, right? I was reading David Goggins' book the other day, and we are capable of so much more than we know and are willing to bring out ourselves. So when you have someone like that, and he does it in a very brash way, and it is TV, but Gordon is really trying to push and push and push to get you over where you think you can go. So past where you think you can go. So he's great, man. I mean, he's a good dude. Like he's chill, very humble. If we enter in a like, I've seen him in a couple public spaces. He's not like a super diva. It's a lot of divas out here in food TV. Gordon Ramsay is not. So good guy. You would like him, Trevor. No TikTok just yet, but it'll be on the way, hopefully. Um, how did you get into cooking, and what led you to focusing on soul food? So, I took an eighth grade class in eighth grade home ec, and I made a lasagna. And my wonderful and sweet home ec teacher, Miss Hill, was very encouraging. I couldn't believe that I made something that people liked and enjoyed, like an elaborate dish like lasagna. Took it home. My mother encouraged me to do it more. She actually bought me ingredients, and I made lasagnas for people in the neighborhood and sold them. It was around eighth grade where I just knew that this was something that I wanted to do, and soul food. I don't know why my mother, you know, Black history or Black culture was never like a thing off in another place like that we had to incorporate. We were immersed in it, and it wasn't like it was just who we were. So I've always carried my culture or soul food, so called, with me. It just again, it's just like how would I not be proud and cook? I'm a master at like if you want to do things that you've grown up doing. It's easy for you to do, right? So yeah, so I've always carried it with me. What did Gordon pull out of me? Chef Ramsay pulled out a great deal. I mean, um, I pushed myself again beyond measure. My body was broke. Like you don't get a lot of sleep. There's grueling work, and there's the pressure. And I really wanted to win. The stress levels are really high, and he was very encouraging. A lot of that stuff doesn't make the cut, right? It's not like he sat us down and said, "So what's going on?" But he would push in a way that was very unique, and you knew I came from the chef. I was the chef business for many years prior to that. I understood. I think I understood subconsciously what he was trying to do. So, I mean, what he pushed out of me is I took the crown home. So yeah. Let's see. Favorite dish on my menu. So I serve fried chicken sandwiches. So probably the classic, which is with this mother sauce and pickles. Probably my favorite dish. It's just, it's. I mean, I don't have an unfair. It's like asking what's your favorite child. They're all my kiddies. I love them. Let's see. Misconceptions about soul food. I think there's a lot that it may contradict or seemingly contradict that it is centered around fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, and collard greens. Soul food and eventually Black food are not like a monolith. They're not one thing. There are many, many things. I focus on fried chicken because it's my thing, but there's so many things and there's so many stories and culture and tradition behind all of the foods that are that have come through or that are part of African American food pathways. So the biggest misconception is that it fits on that one plate, and this is it: candy yams, mac and cheese, greens, cornbread. I think that's the biggest misconception, is that we've been siloed into it is one thing. I focus on one thing. It is it is many things, right? Saying soul food or Black food is one thing is almost like saying there is Italian food, right? So there's no such thing as one Italian food. There are many things that we know, oh, that's Italian. But if you just look at Italy, like there's so many different types of cooking techniques and ingredients. So I think that's the biggest misconception. Yes, Christine, David Goggins is pretty inspiring. Um, Seeing you not on your sound, so glad you won. Thank you, Christine. I appreciate that. Well, you said it, you wish they would show it, but nobody wants to see that, right? It's Fox. People, I'm pretty sure they've done test studies around Hell's Kitchen. People like seeing people get yelled at. If nobody liked it, then they wouldn't show it. So, um, thank you so much, Chris. Please have a great day. We appreciate you. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but hey, it's Hollywood, right? You can't have it all. It's Hollywood. You gotta Tide, Tide and Procter and Gamble want to sell some ads. So hot ones. What's hot ones? What is that? You gotta school me. What's hot ones? You typing? The little test. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw that. I saw that. I don't know. Whenever they call me, man, I'm not. Tell them Trevor. Email them. Tell them I need to be on there. I don't know. I'll do it at my restaurant. We'll have you on there. I want to have regular people on the show, as opposed to celebrities. There it is, Anika. There we go. Let's sign it. We got two signatures right there. It looks pretty awful. So, yes. I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you. We got three signatures. There we go. Listen, it's the movement. Rock Harper on hot ones. So y'all can laugh at me. So y'all can laugh at me crying like a little baby.
Oh no.
I appreciate it. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot. It's been a lot of fun. And I hope we can do it sometime again. 6.
So as Valeria put in the chat, don't forget to do the post-event survey for a chance to win a JBL portable speaker. Also, if you're here representing a club, make sure you go all the way up to the top of the chat box for the instructions. I believe Stephanie Rapace also placed them somewhere in the middle. Make sure that you make a comment and that you also take a screenshot. Hey. So to say that you're here so that you can get your credit. Great, Christine. Okay, so with that being said, how exactly do I do it? How do you do what, Christine? I would take your camera, your phone, and just take a picture, if that's what you meant. Hi, Angela, representing Minority Teachers Association. There's a survey link right there, so make sure you click on it. And I'll give you just a few more minutes to get those screenshots. Let me put my glasses back on so I can look intellectual.
Now you look intellectual. I love it.